He's going to be spending tons of money. I mean, we are busting the budget in a way that is unimaginable. We can't pay for it. Bills come due. Every dollar the government spends is one more, like it's a deeper finger in your pocket that is squeezing you in places you shouldn't be squeezed. It all comes back to bite us. And Joe Biden is out of control in that sense.
I want to bring up a completely fictitious event because obviously this didn't happen. But let's just say one of us had a party a little bit after the election. And let's just say there were a bunch of political people at this party and we were sitting around a fire. And let's just say maybe there were a couple joints being passed around. And let's just say some of the people voted for Trump and some of the people voted for Biden. This, of course, is completely fictitious. Neither one of us, good, decent citizens, law-abiding, would ever do something like this. And let's just say some of the Biden people were feeling good and the Trump people were kind of feeling upset. And let's just say you, and again, this is completely fictitious, actually said to everybody, you know, maybe everyone needs to calm down because this is just the cyclical nature of politics. And perhaps it was just the weed talking. But do you really feel that way, that even now as you see what I think, and if you take a different position, it's fine, an administration that's sort of out of control and now we're going to expand the courts and all of this stuff, do you still feel calm within that? And that's a little bit of the previous question just related to temperament.
No, I think it's great. And the one thing I want to point out is, you know, of course, in California, smoking weed is legal, which is something that it was, you know, obviously was going to happen. When I started at Reason in 1993, and there was the first medical marijuana vote, a ballot initiative in California in 96, which won overwhelmingly. You know, you knew legal weed was going to come, but it's kind of amazing that it came, you know, and it's in a majority of people in America live in states where recreational weed is legal. You know, the drug war is ending. And it's kind of phenomenal. So it's, you know, and that's like one of the libertarians don't have a lot of wins, but this is something, the first issue of Reason in 1968, you know, talked about ending the drug war before Richard Nixon had even escalated it in the very early 70s. So, you know, it's kind of good to step back every once in a while and say, like, you know what, like there's a lot of terrible stuff going on, but, you know, in many ways, things are pretty good. To your larger point, I think what we specifically were talking about in a fictional universe.
In that completely fictional universe.
Absolutely. You know, it takes place on the other side of Earth, you know, in negative Earth or something, counter Earth.
The food was delicious, though, at that fictitious event, wasn't it?
I seem to remember looking at that and thinking, wow, in a fictional universe, I wish I could eat that food in my actual place. No, but, you know, it had more to do with things about free speech and where we were going, because I had written before the election, and this is something, I voted for Joe Jorgensen. I almost never vote. I've only voted for a major party candidate once in any election at any level. That was Walter Mondale in 1984. I don't know what I was doing.
Did not go well.
You know, you know, and it's like, I think what I liked about him was that he said he was going to raise taxes to close the deficit. I was like, okay, that's honest. It's suicide, but it's honest. But in any case, I had written before the election, here are 11 trillion reasons to be scared shitless about Joe Biden becoming president, because he had offered $11 trillion in new spending, you know, in his campaign platform. And that's really bad because Donald Trump had actually, under Donald Trump, the budget had already massively increased from when he took office. Obama, things ratcheted up from, you know, 2009, his first budget year, to him leaving. Bush, you know, had increased spending 50%. We have to stop spending so much money, especially since we're not paying for it. So I'm not a fan of Joe Biden. I do think that we still live in a world of free speech. I dislike very much the way, you know, the social media platforms, the Facebooks, Twitter, YouTubes of the world are clamping down on speech. I think that's inarguable, and we have to scream bloody murder and also build alternatives to that. Let's talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
You're specifically, I think Joe Biden is delivering on exactly what he promised, and that is a dark winter for America on every level. You know, he and to this point, like I was just reading today, Kamala Harris has actually said, oh, well, you know, Biden is so busy doing other things, he's not even going to get around to legalizing or descheduling marijuana at the federal level, which is also something that was kind of promised. You know, so it's like, yeah, he's going to be spending tons of money. I mean, we are busting the budget in a way that is unimaginable. We can't pay for it. Bills come due. every dollar the government spends is one more, like it's a deeper finger in your pocket that is squeezing you in places you shouldn't be squeezed. It all comes back to bite us. And Joe Biden is out of control in that sense.
So do you think, though, the inherent problem with this, when you talk about 11 trillion in spending or 2.2 in COVID relief or any of this, that the numbers are so bananas, they're so out of control, and it makes sense to nobody. We also know that the budgets come in these papers that look like this and nobody reads them and all that stuff. But that it simply is just not sexy enough. Like, you could sit here and explain perfectly why we can't keep doing this, and that eventually we're going to have to go to war because we're in a mafia game, basically, wherein if you can't pay, which we obviously can't pay, well, then you better have a bigger gun than the other guy, and China might call in the debt one day, but it just isn't sexy enough.
I think that that's a real issue. And again, I'm kind of like in the persuasion game. Like I know what I believe, so I don't feel a need to express myself with, like and say, I am the true Scotsman, I am the true libertarian, and don't disagree with me, otherwise you're not real or anything like that. What I'm trying to do is persuade people to have a different view of the world, one in which individual and, individual freedom and voluntary association is at the center of everything rather than kind of top-down coercive controls of business, of culture, of life. That's a real question. And I think one of the things that I'm trying to talk about now more in all of this spending is that, it's like, when you're getting all of your money from one guy or from, one source, and it's in, the Capital District. I mean, we're in the Hunger Games here, where everything is being funneled in from the provinces to the capital, and then they spit some of it back at you. That comes with a huge amount of strings attached, and it gets complicated, and it's just freaking annoying. And especially coming on the heels of the pandemic, in California, in New York, the two states where I've spent most of the lockdown. You have two madmen who were being hailed as, the great saviors of humanity by the media, by people, by politicians and their handlers and all of that kind of stuff. Gavin Newsom and Andrew Cuomo have been revealed to be terrible at what they do, and one of them is a truly awful human being, which was hiding in plain sight.
Wait, which one? Which one?
Well, you know what? I'll let our listeners decide.
I think I know which one you're talking about, but I'm honestly not sure.
Yeah. We don't have to choose. They can both be awful human beings as well as awful leaders. But what we're witnessing now is a historic moment that I think builds on 2 decades of the government at all levels trying to get bigger. Certainly the federal government, where it's spending more money, it's regulating more things. Where we go from a place where we started the 21st century not having to. Not having to take our clothes off when we go to the airport, and now we are not only doing that, we're talking about seriously discussing having to show medical papers in order to get on a freaking airplane. Yep. This is serious stuff. And this is the ground upon which I think we need to persuade people to say, you might want that $1,400 check. You might want $3,600 to have a kid. And by the way, I just want to say it is so immoral to have the government trying to dictate, how many times you fuck or how many kids you have by offering you more and more money. And it's also unfair to people who don't want kids, But having said any of that, like what we need to persuade people about, or what I'm trying to do, is like the more money you get from a place, the more they own you on some level. And what I want is, I'm not an anarchist. I don't think there should be no government. I think there should be a strictly limited government. And a lot of what it should do, apart from like general defense, is, it should be helping people who are poor or for whatever reason don't have the resources to fully kind of engage or participate in society. Give poor people a lot of money to go to education, to figure out how to live their lives and things like that. But leave middle class and upper middle class and rich people, we can pay our own way. But we now have a government that is promising to be all things to all people, and that that paycheck from the government doesn't come free.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist, all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.